Hello and welcome to Real Hi-Fi Help. Bad contact. So I wanted to make this video about something very basic that I feel that we're not really covering in the hi-fi world. So in case you just stumbled across this channel here, I make good videos about basically how you can improve your sound, and I would suggest that if you want to get all the optimal amount of value out of my videos, that you then watch every single video from start to end, every single second of it, so that you simply can harvest all that hidden potential there is in your system. Because when you have all of this information that I've put in my circa 330 videos, I believe that it will give you a lot more of a normal, not normal, a lot more of a evolved, intelligent type of sound that is a lot more pleasant and organic and multi-layered. So go through all of my videos if you can, and have a look at them, because they can really help you. Let's just jump into this video about bad contact. So this is a Vandersteen speaker, Model 3. You can see that there is bare wire on the terminals. You can do that. Like I've written here, wire on terminals works fine. Let me just zoom in a bit so you can read the text a bit easier. So wire on speaker terminals works fine, but usually the sound gets just a bit raw and basic, lacking a bit of selling power, keeping the listener's brain occupied, wanting more. It just is usually basic. And especially when you go with basic cables, it gets even more basic. You just get like a flavorless type of sound that, it's producing sound, but it's not really going into a certain direction, having personality, style, taste. It's just like ugh, So, but sometimes it can actually be a better solution than using plugs. But I would say that that's very, very seldom. I would say plugs are still preferable to get a good contact, but also a good sound. But again, there's oxidation that happens, which degrades the sound slowly, usually makes it a bit harsh and closed in when you do stuff like this, when you have bare wire exposed, so that's also one of the reasons why I don't recommend doing this. But to some degree, I kind of get it. When you're starting off in hi-fi, you might want to do this to start with, just so you have a functioning sound. And yeah, that's just my opinion. So I feel that you can get away with perhaps putting banana plugs on terminals like these. One of my friends did this, where he put banana plugs here, and then it kind of like, you get like a third of the screw, squeezing the banana plug here. So you can get away with that, but usually what you don't know is that when you have contact like that, it does to some degree degrade the sound, so it isn't optimal. But again, you can get away with that. I'm just saying that there might be a bit of detail that you lose because of that, and especially some stability in the sound and bass richness, usually when you do stuff like that. So I'm just kind of telling people that, because I've tried it before, and you basically want to have something that supports a big part of the plug, that locks it in, that has a lot of resistance so it doesn't vibrate. Basically, you don't want to take any shortcuts if that's possible to get a good contact. It's very important having good contact in audio. It isn't like the networking world where you just have function zeros and ones, and either it works or doesn't it work, and then you know, flip a switch. It's not like that with audio. With audio, every single little small thing does to some degree make a difference, and this is where you can save your sound by actually saving a lot of money. So when you have terminals like this, the Fender Steen 1CI model, this isn't exactly the same terminals that I had. Must be a different version, but sometimes you actually need to bend the plastic here to get the spades to fit into place. And I'm pretty sure that this extremely tight fit is a way that improves sound. So when you have just a tight fit between a spade and it's touching most of the screw and it's secured tightly, it might seem that you're damaging the speaker, but it's some pretty hard plastic. You should be able to give it a bit of resistance, and I feel that is a thing that cements the good sound in this Fender Steen speaker. So take that opportunity if you can, and you know, if it's at all possible, I would actually flip the spade so it goes like this and the wire goes like that back, because if it rests in that position, it's usually a bit better. I will cover this a bit below, just so you know what I mean. So I'm also pretty sure that one of the main reasons why these Oyed SRBN banana plugs sound so good is because the fit is incredibly tight. If you look at the end here, it's not usual a usual thing where it actually gets thicker out here than the diameter over here, you know. I just find that very interesting, you know. It kind of tells you a lot about the sound. Has a very firm bass, very stable sound, a bit on the analytical side, just a tiny bit, but just fantastic banana plugs if you ever wanted some really good banana plugs. But again, you know, contact. A lot of cheaper banana plugs, they don't have this type of end. They just have like a thin metal thing that just barely holds on together, and then it vibrates and perhaps comes a bit loose. You want something with some resistance, and of course a lot of good metals, build quality always helps with that. And here, like I said before, I recommend, if you can, when using spade plugs that you just don't put them in this way, you know, because they can slowly fall off, slowly losing contact. And so actually what I would do is flip the spade. You can't do it in this design here because of this top thing that's really annoying, but if you have like a neutral setup like this here, then you can flip it. So this spade, instead of it goes like this and the cable under here, you do it the other way where it goes like this and then the cable up here. That usually creates it in a resting position, and then it won't slide off. So you're both resting the cable and you're preventing it from sliding off, which is a very good idea. So it's just something, it's a small thing that you can do that, you know, together with other small things, ultimately just gives you a more stable, organic, natural type of sound. But here you can see, like I've written. And on top of that, because you don't want weight and force pulling the cable away, you kind of want it to relax into this. position, not even pulling on the terminal, but just like dumping its weight, like doof, and then the cable just dumping behind. You also don't want the cable, pulling with like several pounds of force. Your speaker terminals here, amp terminals here, or the speaker terminals that you have. You just want stuff to relax in a natural way. And yeah, you can use these types of blocks that I'm just about to show you guys, but you can also create your own, and these basically prevent vibrations and reduce tension, stuff like this. You can either buy them or make them yourself. You might as well make them yourself because you can save a lot of $100 on that. And this is just a plastic design, I think. Got some foam here and some, sometimes you can also use some wooden blocks. You can make that yourself, but all in all, this helps reduce tension in cables. We don't want cables vibrating. We don't want tension in them where they're like pulling on one or the other side. We just want it to be like balanced, relaxed, neutral. And also, ultimately in a cable, you don't want the threads inside to be really, physically pressured a lot and with a lot of wrapping around of it. You ultimately also want a cable, if it's possible, to breathe. That's a different video in itself, but I'm just kind of telling you the artistic way of looking at this, because you don't get other channels really looking at this perspective of artistry, because hi-fi is an art, but if you choose it from a technical point of view where you have to explain everything in a technical way with graphs and frequency curves and stuff like that, you're never really gonna get into that beautiful, aesthetic, rare, organic sound that you get typically from listening to a top condo or audio note system. You're gonna get more, if you do it perfectly technically, you're gonna get more into a Negra type of sound, which is a lot more correct and flat frequency response type of sound. So it's just to let you guys know that there is that way, that religious way of doing stuff. The type of Negra stuff where everything's kind of perfect, and then there's the more condo audio note type of sound that is more artistic and perhaps not as perfect technically when you measure it, but it's just made in a very different way. So personality wise and priority wise and structurally in the sound, it's just very different, the directions that they go in. So it's just to let you guys know. I like thinking about stuff like this. And this is just a small thing, but I think that once in a while you might want to do something like this here. This guy here, I've visited him on eBay. Once in a while he sells this stuff here, Mica Clear, which is basically like an improved alcoholic compound with I think some different types of salts and a bit of gold and other stuff. So what it does is it doesn't really leave anything on the plugs. What it does is it basically cleans it properly, and then it creates a sort of way for it to bond better, so that when you have one plug going into another plug, you don't get all of these air holes. You get a tighter mechanical fit. And all of these types of sprays have a sort of thing that they do to the sound, and most of them, they hype up the sound where they just create an insane amount of detail, or they freak out some part of the audio frequency. I don't like that when you typically do that from the food tech point of view, that is a very certain type of sound that can pep up the sound and make it more lively. But I'm not really into that. I'm more into just keeping it neutral, letting the gear do what it does, so you don't put this sort of frosting on top of the sound, manipulating it, steering it. So that's just how I see it. There are a lot of these types of products. This is a product that's relatively cheap that for me lasted many years, and that's why I use this guy. It isn't a super professional thing. I'm not even sure if it is an official approved product, but one thing I know is that I bought this from a friend once, and since I bought them, I just thought that, wow, that made a big difference. Just doing that once, like every year or second or third year, just like I just took all of my plugs, opened them up, used an ultrasonic cleaner like this, where I just took off all the parts from the power plugs, took them out to get all that grease and fingerprints and fats, and and ultimately, but when you leave plugs alone, bad stuff gets in there even though you can't see it, and it does actually affect the sound, especially when you have certain types of plugs that perhaps are a bit not necessarily that good. But also, if you have really good plugs that are really revealing, it can make a big difference if you do this treatment on all of your plugs and all of your tubes on the metal parts. Okay, that could really help a lot doing it there. So yeah, that keeps a good contact, and you basically get a lot less of a vibrational type of sound. You get more of a solid connecting type of sound. And I remember doing this on my Tube Guru tubes a lot. That was really good. That was really, really good for the sounds. And I would say that especially people that have a warmish type of muddy sound, this would help them a lot. And also if they just have, basically plugs that look awful, if you can take them apart and put them in a machine like this, ultrasonic cleaner, usually you have some kind of mineral water that you put in it, and then perhaps some other additive, and then you just let it, like vibrate for a while, and it works, and it's also fun. I like doing small shit like this. It's just a lot of fun, because when you become so involved with all of your gear, yeah, mentally it might make you listen to things that aren't normally there, but I recognize that, but that shouldn't discount that this stuff to some degree works. Okay, so the fact that you can do small stuff like this and that it works to some degree, I feel that it should be mentioned. But of course, you can always, trick yourself and make yourself believe all kinds of things because you used a lot of money on this and that. But you have to be able to distinguish between that and, stuff actually making a small bit of sound difference. And whatever you can take here and there, you got to take that, because when you can deal with all of these small bits and pieces that people normally don't deal with, then you can suddenly save $5, $10, $20,000 on this amp, this CD, this DAC, this speaker, and before you know it, you have a system that only cost you $5,000-$10,000, maybe, but it sounds more like a normal $50,000 system. So yeah, maybe even better sometimes. Sometimes even better. So yeah, that's just what I wanted to point out with this video. And just like with all my other videos, try and go through them all of them, and get all of that valuable information that you need so you can improve your own sound. And like and subscribe and leave a comment if that's possible. Have a nice day. Bye.